Welcome everyone. In this video, I shall be walking us through some of the other tools I use very much often in while creating designs, especially for the social media poster designs or flyers. These are the tools I use very much often, apart from the ones you find, all these toolbars. The other ones you find is called the mask. It's called mask. It's called layer mask, and adjustment layer. There are plenty parameters in the adjustment layer, but we shall just be taking a look at the curve and the hue saturation, which is very key, which is one I use very often. Then a link will be provided to help you, if you're interested in going deep into all of this, which you should actually. Then the video will help you. The link to all these videos will help you, to go deep, to dive more into all of these tools. So for the layer mask, the way it works is that, now let me just tell you what the idea is. Let's say, for instance, right, I could have designed this, right, and yes, and you say the design is okay, but for many design softwares, they don't really. For one of the things that makes Photoshop very powerful is that the ability to edit layers, to edit pictures it gives us very good control to edit pictures. For instance, I have this picture here illustrating my point, which is to search, right? To a large extent, it's abruptly cutting off here. It's not the best way to present use image in whatever design you're doing. Rather, it should be able to flow in. As such, you should be able to see something like the picture should just fade in and not just cut off abruptly. So one of the major ways to achieve that is using the mask system. And how to do this? There are plenty of ways to apply mask system using marks as a way to fade stuff. One of the ways is, if I come here, right, I'm on the observant image, image. I click on this layer called add layer mask, Once I click that, now the way it works is that, the way the mask system works is that it uses color ratio. It uses color ratio. It uses color ratio in terms of white represents visible. That is, like right now, everything is still visible. I've added it, but it's as if nothing is happening because everything here is white. It means it's saying show everything. But once I find my way in painting this in black or making this color here that you can find here, no, I'm not supposed to do this. Making this color here black. Once it turns to black, once it turns to black, it means hide. Yes, it means to hide. White means reveal, black means hide. Now that's the basic principle. So how do I go about this? Once I have this, one of the ways I can use the brush system. I can use the brush tool to paint in black here. And notice something. Once I'm on this layer, once I have let's say I have the normal layer selected. Remember, this is just the normal smart object, that's a picture layer selected. Once I have it selected, if you check here, this place that the foreground and background color selector, that's where we do that here, at this left hand side here. You see that the color is white and cyan. This is cyan, right? This is like where we select this is the color for the layers, which we practiced the other time. But once I click this thumbnail here, this layer mask thumbnail, you see that it changes to only two colors. There's just only two colors, that is black and white. So, and that's just the major two color ratio that we need to know, the color range that we need to know to manipulate and work with this the mask system. So once this is selected, I can come here, take my brush, But this is the demonstration. But this is not the best way I go about what I want to achieve. But this is just demonstration to tell you that this is also possible. I press B, right here to bring my brush tool. So once this is here, and this is black, right? Okay, let me toggle between white and black. Okay, I can do that here, or I press X to toggle between white and black. Now once I have this white, no matter what I paint, it won't nothing, because it's like I'm painting white upon white. Remember, everything is already visible, and I'm still painting the white to telling it visible, so it won't make any difference. Rather, once I turn it to black, I've just pressed X to turn it to black. Once I turn it to black, it means at this particular time I'm painting in black. Anywhere I paint black now won't be visible. It will be transparent and won't be visible again. As you can see, I'm painting black now. You see here is black, but to a large extent it's a little bit gray and not totally black. Why? Because I have here my opacity is set to 62. So if I increase the opacity, it means it should turn to total black once I paint. That is total wiping off everything. You can see it's totally black here. The color range, the color we are getting is totally black, so it can wipe off everything. But once I turn it back to reduce the opacity, so to a large extent the blackness is reduced. So to a large extent, what I'm actually painting now is kind of a gray color that I'm painting. So with that being the case, I can only fade it gradually. I can only fade the pictures gradually, as you can see. So that's to a large extent, this is one way to go about this layer mask. And all of this method is usually good for people that has drawing Wacom tab or this drawing tab. It's very good. So to a large, yes, so you can see now it's giving this little fade in and not just this abrupt from the movement from the picture to the background. So this is one way to go about this whole thing, applying layer mask. But yes, and one good thing with this is that one good thing with having this layer mask, using this layer mask system, is that as you can see now, I can come here, right click here and say disable layer mask. Let's say I've done something I don't like and I want to go back to the original form, to use original image. This is called I'm not doing destructive editing. I'm not doing destructive editing because I can always revert back to whatever I'm doing. So I can come here and delete. Let's say I don't like that. I can come here and delete the layer mask. So I go back to the original form. Then I can come back and add another layer mask and restart. And this time, let me show you another. Remember the color range, right? Let me show you another way to go about this, which very often, this is where I go about it. I go to my gradient tool and I choose gradient. And I come here, I make sure I choose this black to gray to white. Boom. Once I click that, remember, white is visible, black is not visible. That's removed completely, but gray is in between, so it means faded. So once I come here, this is where I do it. So I click first, I click and drag up, and I'm holding shift. As I'm dragging, I'm holding shift to make it straight. So and I release. So you can see it's added this fade. It just faded everything uniquely, as in evenly. It faded everything seamless. Sometimes after doing that, I might not really like it. I might do another one again. Press that, click that, drag my mouse up, holding shift. I take it, so you can see it faded it more. So this is how many times. This is how to work with background sometimes, to make your background fit into whatever. To make your image fit into the background, or even the background when you're playing with other backgrounds together, when you're mixing backgrounds together, you can always do this. So then remember, there are plenty of other ways to apply this, and you should actually do more research, but I'm just pointing you to all these tools so that later you can do more research on them. You should be able to go online, as I've made mention to you. Now this is called layer mask. There you go. Just search layer mask, how to use layer mask in Photoshop. Then online, you should be able, on YouTube, just go to YouTube, be able to find plenty of other materials. Then the other tool I use very much often is called Hue Saturation, and it's found under, is one of the tools under adjustment layer, because this is the adjustment layer. So is Hue Saturation. Now, to a large extent, why they call all of this is adjustment layers, because they usually carry a mask. They usually carry masks. Remember the system of masks I introduced here. It's still the same thing. It's still the same ideology. It's still the same idea. It's still the same system. The way it works. The way it works. It means whatever I'm applying here, I can come here, since this is white, right? Anytime I apply here, it's showing directly into this. It's being visible. Why? Because this is white. But if I start painting, whatever I do here now, whatever parameter I change, okay, let me change some parameter. Now, the idea of using this hue saturation, many times the way I use it is that, remember before now we've talked about the basic, some principles we need to consider in achieving a very good layout or design, and one of them is repetition, right? And in repetition, one of the key idea we need to repeat is the color scheme, right? So sometimes you may have image, you actually have some stock image, some image that you find that you want to make use of in your design, but the color with which the image comes in, or whatever element comes in, doesn't match with the color code that you are working with, either the color palette that you've chosen or from the brand color. So this hue saturation is a very good way to match the color, so that yes, we should always have this. But this is one of the things that differentiates professional works from amateur, is that color, there is repetition, there is unity of color. They don't just pick something from anywhere and just want it. So the way to unify your elements is through also color, right? So, and a very good way to do that is using this hue saturation. And how did I bring it out? Once again, I came here, I clicked on this adjustment layer panel, and I clicked on hue saturation. So I brought it out. So, and I was explaining, there are two things here. You find this white, this is a mask, and this one is the hue saturation parameter itself. So what this allows us to do, we can actually change the color. Let's say the brown color is a little bit of red instead of it being the normal yellow that it was. So I can come here, play with this. There's no particular way. It's highly intuitive how to use this hue saturation. You just need to play around with it, toggle this thing. So now let me shy this. It's just this yellow here that I really need changed. This yellow color here. But let's say for the skin, right? I want it to remain this. I love her skin. She's Nigerian girl, right? I don't want to touch that. So now the good thing with that is that with using the layer mask system, we can achieve that in such a way that we don't have to give ourselves stress. So let me see play. Maybe I can take it to the extreme. Okay, let's say this is not the best, but I'm just taking it to the extreme so that you see its application. Okay, let's say this, right? I've changed the color to blue, and it's affecting plenty of other things which I don't want. So the way to go about that is to use our layer mask. And remember, white means see-through, white means visible, black means to block. So here now, once I have this selected, I make sure that the foreground color here is black. So once I have that, I can press my B to come out. That's B to bring out my brush. Yes, I'm pressing the bracket, box bracket to reduce it, and I can zoom in and start wiping away the places that I don't want it to go. So as I'm doing this now, it's wiping off. So I can afford to increase this to 100, the opacity to 100, so that it completely wipes this off here, all of these places. Another thing I want you people to notice is that whenever you are working with this hue saturation, whenever you're working with an adjustment layer, it affects everything that is under it. But if you just want it to specifically affect just the layer that it is above only, there are two ways to go about that. Is that you come here and you go to its property, click this icon here, this particular icon here, you click it. So by this, it will only affect that layer directly. Or let me do Ctrl Z on that. Or once you have it selected, you hold your Alt. Once you hold Alt and you come close to it, once you click. So as I was holding Alt and I came in between the layer and the one it's under, I came in between it. See, this icon comes. There's this down arrow icon that is attached. So by then now, I need to now click on the layer again, the adjustment layer again. So once I click it again, so right now, everything that I'm applying on it will only affect this layer that is directly under and not every other layer it is under, just this one that is directly under. So let's go back to our cleanup. So you can see this is the benefit of the layer mask. It allows you to mark some things out as it's made. So for instance, I've just made a mistake. I've painted into this place that I'm not supposed to do. But I wouldn't worry about that. Let me just finish with this other one. Later, I'll go back and press X or toggle this to white and come back here and paint. So this is how, okay, I think I will only paint the face, but this is just the demonstration of, I will only paint the face to remove this. But as I've told you, you need to, go on YouTube, do more research on all of this. But this is an overview, this is an introduction for you. So this is it in a nutshell. So for this other one now, I can now zoom in properly, reduce my brush size, and press X to toggle back to white. So with this white, I'm making it say visible, be visible with. So what I'm doing here now, as I'm painting on this, I'm telling whatever information that you have on this adjustment layer, make it visible. Don't remove it, right? As I'm painting white on it, I'm telling it to be visible. So that's the way the adjustment layer works. So I could have gone ahead to do all of this, but you should understand what I mean. You can do that. You can actually do that in your own. But you understand. With this, you'll be able to understand how the hue saturation, or every other adjustment layer working with the layer mask, how it works. So another this thing I use very often also is called the curve. Plenty time I use it to okay, let's go back to this image. Plenty time I use it to just do a little bit color correction, and also make some, you see what I mean. So this is also carrying its own layer mask too. But right now, I won't go into that. So the way the adjustment layer curve, the way the curve works is that it uses the range from the bottom part here. It's used to increase the darkness. This bottom part here is used to increase the darkness. Why this upper one is used to, is about the brightness range. But many times where I go about it, I come in here and click here and click in the middle, then drag this middle down a bit and take it up a bit to I'm having like a little bit of X curve. But this allows you to play with but right now I don't think this is a very good typical case of using, but this is just to give you an example, and this is just one of the the color adjustment layer that I use very much often. Let's say sometimes you can have too bright what is it called, images. But I think this one is good, very much good enough. But this is just a table. So I can have these very two bright images. The way to now go about it is I bring this thing down, and this is like adding contrast to it. This is adding some level of contrast to it. So in a nutshell, this is one of the very other tools I use very often. Now the other one I use very often, okay, let me try this one. Also, one other tool that I use very often in order to maintain continuity, repetition, and unity throughout my composition or layout is this parameter you find here. When you double click, let's say for instance I'm making use of this, but I need to change it to a desired color and not just this black that it comes originally with. I just scale that up now. I need to change it to some other color, easily change to some other color, and it's transparent, mind you. How to go about that is by double clicking this. You have it there, double click on it. It brings out some other parameters, some parameters called layer style. So from one of the major layer style that I use very often is color overlay. With this color overlay, I can come here, click on this, and change it to whatever color that I want. Change it to whatever color that I want. So you can see I'm changing it to this color now. So another one I use very often also is called drop shadow. Right? It's called a drop shadow. So you can see that's the drop shadow now. So all of this I applied it on an image. Though it's transparent image, it's transparent. This I can also come here, double click on my text. So many times I try not to go the range of using the way of using drop shadow, but this is it if you want to. So this is drop shadow. I can also come here, change the color too. So I've added, because I've changed the color before now, it's used the former color that I changed. So these are the very tools I use very much often. So as I said, take out your time to go. I will be providing some links to some videos, some materials, to some resources that you can study. But beyond these materials, also do your own personal study, also do your own personal practice to get used to all these tools. See you in the next lesson.